We are going to try to do a little bit different video for you guys this week. Let me go ahead and zoom in. All right, let's see here. That looks pretty good right there. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to talk about players to drop, anything waiver wire, any questions you have. There's a few leagues I know that are doing the mid-season wish I would have drafted draft, so that way you get a little bit of a pass. And of course, we had tons of injuries again. So if you have questions, pop into chat and let's go ahead into this waiver wire list. It's by Yahoo. So the first quarterback it has is Tua. He's coming back. You know what can you say about Tua? He's part of a dynamic offense, and he's someone that if you're in quarterback trouble, he's someone you can definitely look. If it's Fab, they're recommending spending, about 7% of your Fab. They also have down here Drake May. I'm going to tell you, Drake May is someone that I like definitely in Dynasty, but he's about to hit a hard part of his schedule for defenses. So, two I can see picking up, especially for bye weeks and things like that. But Drake May, unless it's Dynasty or you're just really in a super tough spot, I would pass. But what they're recommending for five fantasy bucks out of 100, I definitely can be on board with that. And same with the amount they have for Tua. Next, let's keep rolling, see what else I have. And we're going to look at viewers. So we're going to do Yahoo. We got Bleacher Report and USA Today. But again, any questions you guys have, you want to talk about players to drop, what you should do, we are all for it. Additionally, Justin Herbert. I expected him to have a little bit better game. He did throw for over 300 yards, which was fantastic to see. Him, having a good game. He did not get the touchdowns, but that will come. So I think Herbert's someone else you can add, especially as he starts to have more and more chemistry with the players there. Next, Russell Wilson. I'm going to tell you, me personally, I was rooting a little bit against Russell Wilson because I thought they gave Justin Fields the short end of the stick. Thank you for people that liked it. Again, any questions you have, we'll talk drops, anything you want, fantasy or other sports. But Russell Wilson, for a selfish reason, I was hoping he would be a little bit of a bust because I think Russell is the future there with the Steelers. Then we're down here to Jameis Winston. I'm going to tell you, sorry, quickly back with this. I think what you would spend on Drake May is same thing I would spend on Herbert and Russell. So like $5 out of $100 fab budget. I wouldn't burn if it's a straight normal waiver wire. I'm not burning a top 5 waiver wire for any of these guys. Just being honest. I'm hanging on to that for someone a little bit better. Jameis Winston, it's going to be interesting. We know he can throw the ball, so that's going to be really good for Njoku, who I had been labeling a bust all season. For me now, all of a sudden, he will be fantasy relevant. Also, what comes with Jameson is Judy. Judy is already getting a lot of targets, so I think he's someone you can go out there and add. Again, if we're talking fab, around $5, but I'm not breaking the bank for Jameson. Moving on to running backs. All right, Jordan, I traded Kamara, Pitts, and Pittman and Bigsby for McCaffrey and Bijan. Replacing Kamara for Bijan, Pittman, and Bigsby are bench guys for me, and I have Njoku to fill for Pitts. How did I do? Man, I think that's a great trade for you. You sold high on Kamara. He's had a great season, but Kamara also is getting near the end. If this is Dynasty, even love it anymore, but I definitely like that. Pitts is definitely boomer bust. He's showing a little bit better. Pittman, as long as Anthony Richardson's out there, man, I'm not touching a single one of those wide receivers. I've said it before on this show. Richardson is a fantastic athlete, but he's Tim Tebow. He does not know how to pass. Doesn't mean he can't throw it a million yards. He doesn't know how to pass. And Bijan, it looks like they're finally using him right. And I mean, yeah, I think you did great, Jordan. I think your love of McCaffrey could come back and bite you. But with that being said, he is coming back. And when he's on the field, he is super dynamic. So overall, I really like that trade. All right, we're talking about a few more. We got Tyler Goodson here on the Colts. I actually like him as long as Taylor's out, maybe even a little bit, maybe we'll get 70-30 because it's clearly not Sermon. If you watch the show, I I straight up said Sermon does not have the talent. He was more of a volume guy that first game, and even the second game when they gave him tons of volume, he just couldn't do it. So Tyler Goodson is the preferred handcuff. I would say again, if we're talking fab, Jonathan Taylor, it seems week to week, so I'm not burning a lot of fab unless some sort of major injury pops up. Again, he's a backup, so I'm probably just trying to get him for free. And for dynasty purposes, someone to hang on to. And waiver wire, I'm definitely not burning a top 5 waiver pick for Goodson. Moving on down here, oh, they're recommending $11. Wow, I can see that for Ray Davis, the guy below, who I was high on for dynasty, and it's looking good. And they only have Ray Davis at 11. I'm not understanding that. Again, this is Yahoo, and we're critiquing their stuff. Ray Davis, though, with the game that he had 2 games ago and then this game, he is definitely right now 70-30, and I think it will only go up for him. And it's one of those things that it's good. He's just so dynamic with the ball in his hands if you watched it. And I would burn more than $11 of fab. I would probably go even 15, 17, especially with all the injuries and stuff like that, because he looks like he can definitely be a flex play. Let's move on. Algiers looking good, except for the fact that game script and Bijan still is the guy. Algier has had some games where he had volume and didn't do too well, but again, with all the injuries, I think he is someone you can add as a flex person. Warren coming off 14 touches. He's looking healthy. He definitely showed the end of last year that he can be the lightning to the thunder, so I don't hate that. Vidal, I don't know what to say. A weird thing about Dobbins, if people don't know this watching, Dobbins is only 25. It's kind of shocking. I feel like Dobbins has been in the league for 8 years, but he's only 25. Maybe it's one of those things where he's finally past the injuries, and he's always had that talent. And Harbaugh loves both the brothers. They love a good just bell cow. So I don't mind having him as an elite handcuff, but I'm not really spending too much. Let's see, Jordan. Thoughts on Hawkinson? He will be back this week, maybe available in one of my leagues. I don't hate Hawkinson. I think Sam has shown that he can spread the ball around, and with the inconsistency at the tight end position, I would add Hawkinson, especially if you are in a position where you have, say, Kelsey, someone that I've been down on all year, and he's just not doing it. I had him as a hard fade before the last game. So if you have like a Kelsey, someone you spent, I don't know what's going on with Laporta, but he has that elite upside that you can add Hawkinson. Hey man, Jesus, thank you, Flash, for the Jesus loves me. I appreciate it. Any other comments, guys? All right, we're moving on. Travis Etienne. I mean, it's Tanks Bigsby. Dearness Johnson, he's had so many chances. If Bigsby's available, I think you definitely throw a good portion of your fab. He's someone that I would burn a top waiver wire. Dearness Johnson, I'm not really doing it unless I'm just absolutely in a deep league or bottom of the barrel. All right, we got Aaron Rodgers. Wow, you're going Aaron Rodgers is greater than Joe Burrow. All right, Reverse Flash. Anyone that watches this knows I'm a Packers fan. I even said in our video that we just dropped today that I like Rodgers as a ad because they're going to be in a must-win. But I think Joe Burrow still, at this point in his career, I think Joe Burrow has the higher ceiling. I just don't know if Aaron can really push off and scramble to, do what he needs to. I could see definitely in deep leagues or if you're in a super flex, Aaron Rodgers, but I'm going Joe Burrow. Yep, Packers fan. Yeah, I mean, it's I've seen the greatness of Rodgers, but I'm going Joe Burrow over Aaron Rodgers. Moving on, Roshan Johnson, I think it's very interesting. DeAndre Swift, he's shown that he can run out of okay, exit wounds. Whatever you got going on there. Yes, I can get on board with Love over Russell Wilson. 100% reverse flash. All right, Roshan Johnson, number two. I definitely like him, especially if you're in Dynasty. Swift has shown that he can run out of gas, and so I have him as a stash. So if you're in a deep league or you can carry him, I don't mind. But the problem right now is he is very goal line dependent. So that's why I'd be a little bit lower on him. I could see throwing a couple bucks of fab. And as far as normal waiver wire, I'm not burning a top waiver wire on Roshan. Moving on, wide receivers and tight ends. I think this is the guy that a lot of people are going to be after. He can show that he will get the volume. Jawan Jennings. I'll tell you, Ayuk, the guy was smart. He got his money. Jordan, if you want to pop in and talk about that, I mean, he got his money with Debo having pneumonia. McCaffrey, who we talked about a little bit in here, that Lions game pissed you off for the rest of the season, hands down. Uh, I mean, I like the Lions game. I thought it was really good. Your RBs are Gibbs, Connor, Chase. Who should I start? Um, I mean, Gibbs and Connor. Gibbs definitely is a start. I think you start Gibbs and Connor. Connor's shown that he's pretty resilient. I do like Chase. I think I go with between Connor and Chase. I go week to week with the matchups, honestly. But to me, Gibbs is a must start no matter what. All right, on to Juwan Jennings. It has them spending $21 out of $100 fab, so that's pretty high. I definitely can see that. He's going to be at least the number two for the rest of the season. Jordan, if you want to pop in the chat what you feel about Pearsall's role, what you think. Cowboys fans, that's why. Yeah, as a Cowboys fan, I can see the Lions game pissing you off. That was an embarrassment. But you should be used to it as a Cowboys fan. 1996 was a good year for you. That's about it. I just don't understand Jerry Jones being okay with mediocrity. That's my little bit about the Cowboys. So I'll move on. Coleman, I think it's going to be the ball spread around. The more that Cooper gets involved, the more that it's going to be Cooper is the one. I actually like Kincaid to move up as the number two. I think Coleman has a place, but I'm probably just not starting him. I love him for dynasty and stuff like that, but I just don't see just loyal to my state. Yeah, nothing wrong with being loyal, man. I'm all about it, man. And so if you're a Cowboys fan, go for it. I'll tell you the only knock I have on Cowboys fans is I now live in Texas, and a lot of the DGL team does is, and I realized this when I was going to a Super Bowl this year. The Cowboys fans act like they've won the last 10 Super Bowls in a row. Okay, that's my thing with it is why do you guys have that? You're closer to the Cleveland Browns than you are to the Patriots or Chiefs. So I think that's it. Just a little bit of the arrogance. If you guys were a little more humble. But anyways, I'm digressing. But I love any sports talk. That's what we're here for. Not just that. If you have questions about players to drop, go for it. That super injured players, Godwin. It sucks you got to drop him. Ayuk, it sucks unless you're in Dynasty, and obviously you don't want to drop those guys. Coleman, I'm not spending 9. I'm probably closer to 5. Tillman, I want to see more. I want to see, where they're at. I get it if you want to get the jump, but I think Judy and Njoku gets the biggest boost. So I'm definitely more of who are the top two before I start trying to go to the third catch passing option. Cade Otton, 39% owned, 14. I can see that. Evans, I don't understand Godwin in that game that was blood. It was just crazy. Evans probably shouldn't have been in that game with that hamstring. He tweaked it, so now he's going to miss multiple weeks. Obviously, Godwin's up for the rest of the season. You're going to have to look to see, I would be paying attention how they release their depth chart if you can to who to pull up. Obviously, Auden, he's going to get a bump because he's got that consistency, and it just sucks because Baker Mayfield has been on fire, and to lose your top 2 receiving targets when you're having a borderline MVP season, that's just I feel a little bit bad for Baker. So moving on, I don't have a problem with that. Additional tight ends. Romeo Dubs, I do not understand how he could still be available. The Packers offense at this point, you want pieces of it. Obviously, Reed is the only must start, but Dobbs, I think he's the closest to a second. If you're in a game where you're behind or you're projected to get blown out, Christian Watson is definitely one of those boomer bust guys because he can rip off a 74-yard touchdown or something like that. Here we go. Trey Palmer, Sterling Shepard, and McMillan for Tampa Bay. Trey Palmer's probably who I'm zeroing in on. Shepard, he's on the other side of 32. He has tons of injuries. So it's probably Palmer and then Ott. And I honestly, probably McMillan. I'm just scared of Shepard. Rashad Bateman, it's looking like maybe this guy's finally starting to break out, and they are going to have two wide receivers there. So definitely don't hate that. I could see throwing, between 5 to 10 on that, especially if you're in wide receiver problems with all the injuries. Trey Palmer, same kind of idea, but it's just kind of crappy. You never know. It could be someone that they pull up that was wide receiver 5 that's now Baker's guy. You just never know when you have that big of a turnover. Ricky Pearsall, I think it's Jennings and definitely Kittle. I think they'll use their running backs a little bit, and especially with McCaffrey almost back. So Pearsall, I'm picking up, but again, 5 or less. I'm not burning a top waiver wire. Tutu, Cooper Kupp's about to be back. Puka, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but Tutu, he last year kind of faded after he became the number 3, which he is the number 4 when they're actually all healthy. So not touching him too much. Well, let me back that up. If Cooper and Puka are out, Tutu, but as soon as both of them back, or maybe even one, I'm not touching Tutu based on how he did last year. Hardman, we've seen that story. Exit wounds. I'd bet on the Ravens. Lamar is 100%. Lamar, the Ravens. That's who I predicted the other day in the Super Bowl. Ravens and Packers. Hardman. Again, we've seen that song and dance. Not going over that. Henry seems like he is probably the number 1 there, so I can actually see spending between $8 to $12 on Henry, especially if you're in that wide receiver. In that wide receiver issue, and you need to start tight end. It's just crazy the amount of players. Taysom Hill, I cannot in good conscience ever recommend Hill, just simply for the fact that you never know. He'll be like 0-0-23, 0-0-40. So I can't recommend Taysom Hill. Defenses, Lions defense. You're missing your main sack guy. The Packers, that's who I'm saying to start into stream when you have nothing else. They've been so slept on. And they would have had another top 10 week if they didn't spot them 10 points. That's what's left out about the Houston game. The Packers gave away 10 points with 2 turnovers where Houston started at the 11-yard line. So they had easy points. You take those away and the game's a blowout. Kickers, don't really talk about that. All right, let's see what Bleacher Report has. All right, it's down on the Tua. Again, we talked about Tua. I think you stream him, but if you have Tua and you do not have a backup quarterback on your bench, you're crazy. Expecting Tua at this point to stay. There's even a report today, they're trying to get him to wear the Guardian cap, and he said, nah, I'm good. I don't understand if this guy is trying to make his brain mush or something. The fact he said no to the Guardian cap right there, I'm like, yo, maybe that's a sign of brain injury that the NFL should step in, but we'll see. All right, sorry about that, guys. Had to get a quick drink of water. All right, let's see what else Bleacher Report has. I'm really interested on this one here, USA Today, because it's doing 30 risers and fallers. I will say I will be higher on, obviously, the offense when Tua's back. Hill, definitely he's been streaming, just praying that he can bust one. Obviously, Waddle. A-Chain will probably be able to get some space. The Miami offense will all of a sudden get a shot of steroids, testosterone to put them where they were last year and help justify where you drafted a lot of those people. I'm kind of shocked. Again, Ray Davis. Anyone in comments want to say, I think he should be almost completely rostered, and I would spend, $10 to $15 on him. If someone disagrees, but that's someone that I am picking up. and I have picked up. All right, let's move on. See what else I have. Ricky Pearsall again. I think it's Jennings. Then it'll be Kittle. Debo will be back. I think you can add Pearsall, but again, as a rookie, we will see. Let's just scoop down Romeo Dubs, as we discussed. He's probably the main number two. Obviously, Reed's a start every week, so we can skip Dubs. Hunter Henry, we discussed. All right, let's get to one that I thought was kind of interesting. So it's week 8, fantasy football, risers and fallers. They got up Jordan Love. I think he has cemented himself as a top 10 quarterback. I will tell you, as a Packers fan, my only main issue with Love that I saw is he might have a little bit too much Brett Favre in him, and I love Brett Favre going up. But that gunslinger can come back and bite you at the worst times, and I saw it plenty of times in the playoffs with Brent Favre. Tua, I mean, how could the only place it could go was up for Tua, so that's a little bit interesting. Bo Nix, definitely someone up. I was a hater on Bo Nix, not gonna lie. Interesting fact that out of the 7 games, 5 of the 7 he's finished top 15. He is, they say, QB 14. I had him as QB 13 on Sleeper, but I do like Bo Nix. Down CJ Stroud. It's one of those things where I think he was just up against a really good defense. Jair Alexander was playing, and he's locked up Justin Jefferson and others. So when you're playing a good defense, and I'm not that down on CJ Stroud. I think he's just kind of run into one of those defenses and a few others. Patrick Mahomes is most interesting. I was discussing people. I saw him on the waiver wire last week, and whenever I was looking this week, a few more spots. I hadn't seen Mahomes on the waiver wire since his rookie, not his rookie year, but his second year when he just blew up. So it's kind of interesting seeing. He's definitely, if you're just looking at from numbers, I would have him on the waiver wire. So I understand it. And finally, Anthony Richardson. If you've listened to me at all, my opinion on him is he's Tim Tebow, but a better athlete. So I'm completely down, and I would have no part of their offense until they bring Flacco back. Running backs, they have risers and fallers. Up A-Chain, most again with Tua. Yeah, it definitely. Kareem Hunt, I thought he was going to be, honestly, just kind of super work dependent, but he's shown that he's maybe still got some explosiveness. I'm a little bit shocked at that. So if he's still lingering out there, I don't know how. Definitely scoop him up. Javonte Williams, I like him. I picked him up in the offseason. I know people dropped him after the 3rd game because he only had one meh game in week 2. But if you dropped him after the 3rd game, you are regretting it, and he's still young. If you're in Dynasty, definitely look to get Javonte if he has a couple of clunkers. I think, again, it might be a little bit matchup dependent, but overall, I do not hate Javonte Williams. Rico Dowell, I mean, the needle's up. Here being in Texas, exit wounds, if you're still on here, you can even comment. All of a sudden, they went away from Dowell because Ezekiel Elliott opened his mouth, said, hey, I'm here, why they signed me, blah, blah, blah. So they started feeding Zeke again, and Dowell is clearly the more explosive back. It just goes to show you again with the Cowboys, like, who cares if old man Zeke's running his mouth? You go with the better player. Down Chuba. Yeah, I mean, they've opened up the window for their rookie that's been injured. I think Chuba is exciting. I'll be really interested to see where he goes next year because he's shown he can be an actual starting running back. Hey, Cowboys. But with them going back to Young, I mean, we all saw what Young in that offense, no one was fancy viable. Same thing with Deontay Johnson. So I would watch, see who they're starting. I mean, with Andy Dalton, at least he scares the defenses enough where they have to be honest. Kamara had a bust game. It's kind of what I thought with Rattler. He gets tons of volumes, and if he doesn't break something off, he's just not going to. Starting off super hot, and let's see here. After that, RB26, 17, 33. Sell Kamara if you can. People not paying attention, they just look at it and go, oh man, Alvin Kamara, the name or overall. Pollard, I'm not selling. I like him. He is the number 1, and I think part of it's just the way that offense is. Singletary, Yeah, Tracy's the more dynamic person. I almost think it's Tracy switching to a 70-30 with Tracy. At worst, it's 50-50, but I think they'd be crazy doing 50-50. All right, on to receivers. Tyreek Hill, Waddle, 100%. Debo, except he has pneumonia. So if I'm him, I'm probably waiting at least a week or two. Juwan Jennings, 100%. He's rising. He should be one of the top waiver wire ads. George Pickens with Russ. Russ last year showed he could support some wide receivers. Dubs. Tillman, this is why I said I'm probably waiting a little bit. It's Judy and Njoku. Down Neighbors, I'm not that down on Neighbors. The volume was there, and I just think that right now he's the top rookie wide receiver for me. So I'm still putting faith in Malik Neighbors. Deontay Johnson, yeah, I'm a little bit scared. It says he's got matchup with Patrick Surtain, who's one of the top lockdown corners. So and if they go with Young, I'm just gonna fade that. Jackson Smith, he's just so boom or bust, and I think part of it's just he's struggling to replace Tyler Lockett, and Lockett gives you a solid floor, and then Josh Downs, of course. I've said this. Anything tied to Richardson at this point, Pittman, Downs, I don't play them. Let's see here. Up, Njoku, Hunter Henry, down, Sam Laporta. It's just so hard to see about Sam Laporta what you do. That's why I said if you can add Hunter Henry, if you can add in the comments a Hawkinson, and you have Laporta or you have Kelsey, I think that's what you do. Dalton Schultz for most of the year has not been playable, so I wouldn't have him down. I would just be like, yeah, he's been Dalton Schultz. That's what we have, guys. Thank you for the awesome questions. If you have anything else, hit us up. We did drop our latest volume. Okay, we have our waiver wire week 8, and we're going to talk about the World Series. We do a little bit of poker and everything. So go Yankees, and thank you guys.